Good afternoon. Welcome to the B&H Virtual Event Space. Today, we're going to be talking about some easy and creative ways to light music videos, hosted by Nanlight. And for that, I'd like to send a warm welcome to the man behind YCImaging, Chrystopher Rhodes. Chris, what's going on, man?
How you doing, man?
Good. How's everything?
Great, man. I'm glad to be here talking about lighting. I love lighting, and I think that it is the most transformative aspect of any video production. So it's gonna be cool sitting here talking about it today.
Now, we're excited to have you on. Look, I got a sneak peek, everybody, and he's being really humble and really low key right now. He's really good at what he does. The way you light your videos, just everything. I don't even want to say anything. I'm not going to give it away. Stay tuned. You guys are really going to get kind of just locked in to what it takes to create emotion and mood and drama and any kind of effect you want to do via lighting. Chris is going to show you everything. And the best part, we answer your questions. So if you guys do have any questions at all, feel free to get them in. I want to send a special welcome to everybody joining us watching live on YouTube. If you haven't checked it out, it's BH Event Space on YouTube. And another special thank you to Nanlight for hosting today's event. Chris, I'll kick it over to you, and I'll see you in a bit for some Q&A.
Sounds good, man. Let's get into it. Let's do it. I'm excited. Let's hop into it. Okay. So for the people who don't know me, if you're not part of my audience, I am Chrystopher Rhodes. I've been creating music videos for just under a decade at this point, which is insane to even say. I got into YouTube around 2016 just by documenting my creative process with music videos. And I honestly really enjoy figuring things out without a lot of resources. I grew up in a city that doesn't have a lot of studio spaces. We don't have rental houses. We really don't have anything. So I like figuring things out on my own. It's more than one way to get to the exact same outcome. So when I started out creating music videos, a lot of it was really just me running around and shooting whatever I could find. And I really wasn't too focused on lighting. And you can absolutely do this, but this is the reason why lighting is very important. Like I said, you can actually create a music video without artificial lighting. It's more so knowing about how to use whatever light that you have available to you. So if it's the sun, being able to utilize that in the best possible way is going to give you the best possible outcome. And in this webinar right here, I guess this isn't even a webinar. This is like a live, a live event. You'll learn here regardless of whatever type of lighting you have available to you. Your lighting will always have more impact over your image than pretty much any camera you have out there. If you know lighting, you can get a great cinematic image or a great creative image on your smartphone, and lighting expresses emotion through your shots whenever you're shooting. So these are the 5 tips we're going to go over in detail to help improve your music videos. The first one is motivated lighting. That's probably the easiest and the one that you see the most often. We'll talk about that once we get to that. The second one is contrast colors. Using contrast and colors to light your scenes makes things pop in your scenery. The next one is lighting for your effects. If you're going to be doing these sort of VFX in post, you're going to want to light the scene to match those VFX once you get to that process. And the next one is Rembrandt lighting. This is also a lighting technique that we see all the time. Once you notice it and once you learn about it today in this live event, you'll never not notice it. And the last one is just background lighting. So what is motivated lighting? Motivated lighting is when the lighting in the scene appears to be lit from the practical sources seen or implied. An example of this would be a window or a lamp or a fire. If we look at this screen grab right here from a music video that I just recently created, you see this big window off to the side of the frame. And just looking at this frame, you would assume that the window is lighting the scene. But once we get to the breakdown, you'll notice that we actually have lighting outside of the window. So it's not just the sun that's lighting this. So how do you do motivated lighting? Well, the magic is in the mystery. You want your scene to look like it's actually being lit by whatever practical light source is being shown or implied in the scene. So the easiest way to do this is to make your lights come from the exact same direction as the practical light source and match your color temperature of that practical light source. And you also want to adjust the light's intensity as you see fit. So I want to show you guys really quick some behind the scenes from this recent music video that I just did, where we used a lot of motivated lighting techniques and also just break it down so you can see what's happening. Just break it down so you can see what's happening. So let's pull this up so you can see what's happening here. And let's play. So this is just an example from the music video. These are a couple frames, or I guess a couple scenes from the music video. So you can see what's happening. We got our homie, my artist right here, Ace Haven. He's just sitting in the scene in his chair. And this is the behind the scenes of it. So I just want to pause this immediately so you can see what's happening. So right here, you just see this huge window. And this is the greatest opportunity to use motivated lighting. If you're going to walk in the scene, like this would be something that you instantly point out. This is going to be the easiest way to light this entire scene for this music video. So we walk in, we kind of just scout, kind of scavenge the area. And this is me looking around just to see how we're going to light this scene. And I instantly saw the window. So now I'm just trying to figure out what sort of lights we're going to use and how we're going to utilize them within the scene. So outside of the window, I have a Nanlite 4-300B2. This is a great bicolor fixture by Nanlite. It's super bright, and this is like the perfect light for the scenario. The weird thing about this light is it's bicolor, and the sun at different times of day is going to give you different color temperatures. Closer to sunset is going to be warmer. Around noon, it's going to be very neutral. So the fact that we have this bicolor functionality of this light is great for this scene. So we just placed that outside of the window, and we boomed it up, and we just shot that light straight through the window just to light our subject, the artist in the scene. And right now I'm trying to figure out how we can add an additional pot to the scene. So I just want to go back right here and pause for a second. If you look on this door has some really cool glass slits in it. And I thought, okay, if we shine a light through this doorway, we can get some really cool visual interest into this scene as well. So this is us setting up the next light for the scene. This next light is going to be a Nanlite 300B2, and this is great because it's a bright light source as well. And we just have this on the doorstep, and we're going to shine this directly through this doorway. So in the scene, you'll see the actual scene has some really cool like light slits on this back wall that we added. And this is from this light that we have on the porch. So we filmed a wide shot. We used the Canon C70, and we have this on a slider on the floor because we want to get some nice foreground elements into the scene while the slider is moving. And then we're going to move into a close-up. I went to grab a negative fill for this scene for the close-up, just so we can kind of intensify those shadows on the shadow side of his face to give it more of a dramatic feel. But we're using the exact same lighting setup. The light's still coming from that window. And once we look at the actual frame of the music video, you can see that the close-ups are a little bit dark on the shadow side. And it's great. Like whenever you watch films, they cheat lighting the exact same way. You don't really recognize it, but whenever they go in for a close-up, they either move the light sources closer to the subject to light the scene a little bit softer, or they bring in negative fills and stuff like that. So that's just basically what I'm doing for the scene right here. You can see with the close-up, the shadows on this side of his face are a lot more intense than right here because we brought in that negative fill. And then you can also see right here in more detail, this light coming through that doorway to give those lights, those nice light rays right there on that wall. And that's just giving the scene a little bit more visual interest. And honestly, if this scene was going to be lit from the sun coming from that way, it would look something just like this. Like you wouldn't think anything of this scene if you just saw it. Like you would think that the sun is just coming through the window, lighting the entire scene. And that's the magic and how you want your motivated lighting to look. You want it to feel as though the light is actually coming from the sun in the window. So this is another motivated lighting setup right here. We have the window over here, and we're using this to motivate the scene as well. This is the practical light source in it, the window. So we want it to feel like the sun is coming through the window lighting the scene. And we have a couple different angles of this. We have this overhead angle, and he's basically just counting money. He's talking about, you know, dreams and all that in the music video. So we just kind of wanted to highlight within the scene. So setting up for this light scene, what we're doing is right now I'm setting up this boom arm, and this is where the camera is going to go to get that overhead look, the overhead angle. You can see right here that I'm on my phone and I'm adjusting the light for the video. And that's the great thing about these Nanlite fixtures. They have an app that you can use, in the fact that we have the lights outside of the house, me being able to adjust the intensity and also the color temperature of the lights on my phone, which is great. So I'm booming the camera up above. You can see right here. And also ended up shooting a light directly at the ceiling just to lift the overall ambience in the room as well. It was a bit dark in there. So this light right here outside of the window is the neon light Forza 300B2, the exact same light that we used outside the window on the last scene. And we just have that boomed up kind of shooting through the window. And you can see it's a cloudy day. Like the sun is not even out at all right now. So it's just great to be able to manipulate the lighting inside. If you look at this strictly from the behind the scenes shot right here, you would think that the sun was just beaming through this window, but it's actually a cloudy day, which is awesome. So we have the neon light Forza 300B2 coming through that window, shining on him, just lighting the overall scene. And then we have the Forza 302 shining off the ceiling, just off camera, just to lift the overall ambience and the scenery a little bit more. And this is another look at how that music video scene turned out. You can see it looks really good. It looks like it's a nice sunny day and the sun's coming through the window, but that's just us manipulating the lighting to make it look like the sun is doing that. And that's the magic in motivated lighting. So let's hop back into our presentation. So why do we use these lights? Why do we use the Forza 300B2 and the 302? Well, the first reason that we decided to use these lights is the power. Both of these lights, 300 watts, which gives us an incredible amount of brightness. And it allowed us to actually emulate the look of direct sunlight coming through those windows. You saw that this scene was actually on a cloudy day. And if we didn't have the power from these lights to shine through the windows, it would just be super dull looking. Another really big reason that we use these lights was that their temperature, the 300B2 is temperature adjustment capable. Like I said, the sun is different temperatures depending on where you are or depending on where it is in the sky. Close to the sunset, it's a lot warmer. During noon hours, it's a lot more neutral. After it goes down, the overall temperature of the environment just becomes very cool. So being able to adjust the temperature of the lights worked really well with the scene. And another really big reason why we use these lights is the wireless capabilities. The fact that the light is outside of the house and me being able to adjust the intensity of the light, the temperature of the light, being in while I'm looking at the reference monitor behind the screen to see how this is affecting the scene was just awesome. So motivated lighting is really the simplest form of lighting to follow. You just survey your empty location to see what practicals are in there, and then you see how you can enhance those. A large majority of films are actually lit with this one principle, and this is why the worlds they build are so believable. So whenever you watch a film and you're trying to figure out how they lit this scene or like, why does this scene look so natural? Most of the time it's because they just motivated the lighting. It looks like it's actually being lit by the practical light source. So the next thing is contrasting colors. This lighting technique is also known as complementary colors. Contrasting colors are colors from the opposing segment of the color wheel. So color contrast lighting is an effective way to make your subjects pop in a scene. So teal and orange is something that we always see with the color grading and also like lighting schemes. We also see yellow and teal. That tends to work really well. Green and red, purple and yellow. We always see that. Like these are two colors that we know just work so well together. So how do you light with contrasting colors? The first thing you need to do is you light your subject a color you choose, and you choose another color within that contrasting range to light the background. It makes a clear separation between the two. Color contrast lighting can also work based on subject's outfit color and choosing a contrasting color to that. And we'll see that in an example. So in this example below right here from this frame that I pulled from this music video, you can see that the red next to the blue just makes them pop so hard in the scenery. And it's just the colors that we chose for that. So let's dive into some behind the scenes and break down some color contrast lighting setups. The first one I want to show you is this music video right here, which we shot not too long ago. And this setup right here is a lot more subtle than the one that I just showed with the red and the teal. But these contrasts and colors also work really well. So I just want to show you the music video right now. So you can see we have this really nice soft blue tone in the background, and then we have this really warm kicker light just hitting them. And these two colors contrasting against each other do a really good job of helping them just pop off of the background. We shot this not too long ago. And this is like a still example right here. As you can see, this really warm kicker light that we have is doing a really good job of separating him off this really soft blue tone. So this is like an overview of the lighting setup right here. This is us setting it up. And I just kind of want to walk you through the lights that we use. So right here, this is the Nanlite Forza 60C. This is one of their more budget lighting options, but this is a great light. And this light worked really well in lighting the background, the color that we needed, because it's full RGB. I like this light a lot. And it's super small, which makes it a breeze and super fun to just take on sets. The kicker light that we use to just pop them off of the background, we're using the Nanlite Pavo Tube 230Xs. These are also full RGB, and I like these a lot because they just run off an internal battery. You don't have to plug them in. On sets with a ton of wires can get really messy. So the fact that you can just pull these tube lights out, change it to whatever color you need, and adjust the intensity is great. We're using this as the kicker light to pop them off the background. And this small sliver of light that we're using to light his face is actually the Nanlite Forza 60B2. This light is great because it's bicolor. We also have this paired with the projector mount. The projection mount from Nanlite. The projection mount is awesome. It allows you to shape the light however you want it. And we wanted this light shape on his face to be very untraditional. It's like very small in the grand scheme of things, or how you would typically light a music video scene. And the projection mount also allows us to keep a lot of that light from spilling in the direct background that we are shooting on our field of view for the music video. So once we pop back into the example of the music video, you'll see how all of these lights are really working together. We just have the tube light boomed up above him. And like I said, this is just here to separate him off the background. We shot this a couple different times on the Canon C70 with the Canon 50mm f1.2. We got a couple takes, some on the tripod, added a little bit more motion to the shot to make it more intense. And here's a really great view. You can see how the light shaping right here is done with that Forza 60 B2 with the projection mount. This does a really great job of keeping that from hitting the background. And this is the example. Again, this scene turned out really well. We decided to mute out that blue because we didn't want it to really take away from them being the subject in the scene. But it's still blue, and you can still see that color contrast between those two different lights. And this just turned out to be a really great scene. I like this a lot. The color did a really great job of helping this scene just pop a little bit more, So the next behind the scenes that I want to show you guys is from that frame that I showed you with the teal and the red. So let's just hop straight into the music video so you can see how that looks. So we decided to keep this as like a static frame and just kind of like back out really slow, just so you can get a nice reveal of the entire scenery and all the other people that have the red on in the setup. We talked in detail about this setup before we shot this music video, so we already had the colors and stuff already in mind. We already had the outfits. This is actually inspired by a Netflix show called The Heist. Money Heist. It's called Money Heist. If you ever have time watching Money Heist, you'll see these outfits in full effect. This is actually really inspired for this music video. So to dive into the behind the scenes for it, the lights that we used to light this were actually the Nanlite Pavo Tube 30Cs. So these were a later iteration of the now new Pavo Tube 30X2s that we used in the previous music video. I know that was like a lot to process. Basically, this is an older version of the tube lights that we used in the previous example that I just showed you, but these are still great. If you're going to pick up some tubes, I recommend you getting new ones because they do have pixel effects, but these were an older version because this is an older music video. So we used these tube lights, and we actually ended up just gaff taping these tube lights to the wall. And the reason we did this was because the scene is very small. This is a very small living room, and if these lights were on light stands on the floor, you would see them in the scene. So we just decided to gaff tape these lights to the wall surroundings around him to get that background, a nice teal color. And then we have the key light, which is also a tube light boomed up just above him with the egg crate grid on it. This is helping to reduce the spill of that light because we didn't want that warm or that neutral color light to be on hitting the background. We still want the background to be very vibrant and blue. So we boomed that above him with the egg crate grid on it, and then we threw some painter's plastic all over this living room. We didn't really want to see a lot of the artwork on the walls with the canvases and stuff. We also wanted it to feel very surreal and kind of like rugged. So we basically just threw this everywhere. We have this fan in the background, which is giving us some nice movement on this painter's plastic. And then we basically outfitted everybody in the same red. We had that teal to contrast. And then we also have this red. We also have these red curtains in the background as well, which give us a nice contrast with that teal. Shot this on the Canon C200. And we shot a couple different takes, just a bunch of stuff on a tripod, just to let the scene speak for itself. This color contrast is doing a really good job. And that's the scene. I love this music video, man. This music video turned out really nice. I like the colors on it. And they just pop off of this background so crazy. They just pop off this background so crazy. Okay, let's hop back into our presentation. Okay, all right, so why do we use these lights? So for the Redhead music video, the lights that we used, which was the first example of the color contrast, we used the Forza 60C, we used the Forza 60B2 with that projection mount to key light him or give him that nice shape on his face, and we also used the Nanlite Pavo 230Xs as that kicker light. The first reason is the color. The amount of different colors we could use within the setup really made it all happen. All of these lights are bicolor, but the 60C and the Pavo 230X give you full RGB options for color contrast. If you want to do color contrast lighting, you're probably going to need a light that has that RGB, or you can kind of reflect it through the subject's outfits as well, which we saw in the second example. And the second reason is the shape. Using that projection mount, it just allowed us to get that unusual shape on the subject's faces. And also we didn't want that light casting on the background. The reason why we used the Nanlite Pavo 230Cs in that second example was because of the color. Because we chose those red outfits, we knew that we wanted to contrast this color within the lighting, and the Pavo tubes do full RGB. And the second was just the convenience factor. Like, this is a very small space, like I was saying, and having these lights on the floor would definitely show them in the scene. The Pavo tubes run off an internal battery, and they're extremely lightweight, so we were able to just gaff tape these to the wall and just have them be the focal point of the color contrast lighting setup. Now, planning your shots before shooting will help elevate your music video a ton, and also make the color grading process a lot easier. When I did this example for this music video, for that second example, I really didn't have to do much in post because the majority of the color grading was already done by using these different colors within the scene. Like, I changed the color of the blue to more of a teal, but beyond that, everything was pretty much done, and the scene already looks good because we already went through and we did the color contrast for the lighting. So if you want to plan your music videos, you're going to have a lot easier of a process in post by just doing that. Just doing that alone is going to give you so much easier of a time in post. So the next lighting setup we're going to talk about, or the next way you can light your music videos, we're going to talk about lighting for effects. You want to make your effects believable. So if you plan on doing any sort of green screen or special effects to your music video in post, it's important to first conceptualize those and decide what sort of lighting will make them believable. Examples of this are adding like fire to a scene, or like muzzle flashes if you plan on doing a shot that has firearms, or this abstract setup that we're demonstrating right here. We wanted to get like this really bright doorway. And we knew that if we lit the scene frontal, it wouldn't make sense for this doorway, like lighting wise. Like, if we have a light shining on him in a frontal, typical way that you would light a music video, it just wouldn't work. So we have the light coming from more from behind him. So let me just show you guys this BTS breakdown and show you what we did with this music video. All right, let's play this through. So this is an example of the music video with the abstract VFX that we did. This is our green screen, which we'll show once we get to the behind the scenes. And this music video was awesome, but the lighting really made it believable, and it really made it work. So we shot a couple different green screen takes, and then in post, we just decided to duplicate these and create this really long hallway of him and these really bright doorways. And then obviously in post, we have a ton of different effects on it, like grain, different opacity adjustments, just to make this cool. But this is where the basis of all this happened, in my garage. First thing I did was just tape out those windows in the garage so we get a solid dark scene. We don't really want any color adjustment shifts within the lighting. The first light that we have, and the one that we used as the key light source right here, is the Neon Lights Forza 720B. Now, this actually isn't the 720B. This is actually the Neon Light Forza 500B2. And we also have this paired with the Neon Light softbox, the Parabolic 150. Parabolic 150 is awesome and it's huge, and it just gives you an incredibly soft light source. So we decided to use that as a key light. And like I said, we placed this behind him because we wanted the lighting to feel like it was coming from behind him. We knew if we put a bright doorway behind him, it would make sense for the light to come from behind him. And this light right here that's we're using to light the background is the Neon Light Forza 300B2. And we have a softbox paired with this. Just got this up, same lighting temperature on both of these, and I'm just casting that on the green screen. So when I get to post to do my keying for my green screen, everything's clean. So we have him in a scene. We shot a couple different takes. We used the Canon C70 with the Canon 16 to 35 millimeter f 2.8 lens, and that was basically the scene. Super simple setup, but honestly, the direction of the light, the intensity of the light, everything that we did before we actually shot the scene is what made it believable and what made the scene actually work when it came to post and doing the behind the scenes. I mean, and doing the actual VFX for the music video. So yeah, that's the setup. Here's an example of the green screen work. Again, you can see from the music video, everything just works because of the lighting. Everything just works because of the lighting. So let's hop back into our presentation really quick. Where the freak is my presentation? Oh, there we go. My bad. My bad. Okay, cool. Let's hop back into the presentation. All right, so why do we use these lights? So for this, we use the 500B2, which is the key light. We also pair it up with the Parabolic 150 softbox. And we use the Neon Light Forza 300B2 as that background light to shine on the green screen. Well, the power is the biggest reason why we use these lights. When you're shooting green screen, you actually don't want shallow depth of field. You want the shot, you want to shoot with your f-stop as high as possible. And this is a little bit different from how you might typically shoot if you want to show, I guess, a cinematic image. But with the green screen, you actually you actually don't want to shallow depth of field. So the amount of light with these fixtures, the output that we were able to use helped compensate for the higher f-stop value that I used to shoot this music video. And the second reason is bicolor. We were able to keep all the lights at consistent temperature. I know in post, we actually did change this to black and white, which the color temperatures actually don't matter, but we didn't know that we were going to do black and white until after the fact. So I knew that if I did want to keep everything in color, I wanted to have consistent lighting temperatures for the setup for the scene. The artist and I discussed our plan for the VFX in post, and this is why we decided to light this with the light coming from behind him. If it were in front of him, like we typically light, it wouldn't make any sense in correlation to the VFX. So using the built-in effects on these lighting fixtures are great for lighting scenes with VFX as well. So if you were like trying to replicate a fire and you knew you were going to add fire in post, these lights actually have a built-in fire flicker effect that you could use, and it will help simulate the fire and make it believable within the scene. If you wanted to add in fake photography flashes, they also have a built-in paparazzi effect. If you wanted to add in a fake TV, these also have fake bad TV effect as well. So these lights also have a ton of different effects that will help simulate VFX in post. The next lighting technique is going to be Rembrandt, and this is one of the most popular bases for lighting. So what is Rembrandt lighting? Rembrandt lighting is characterized by an illuminated triangle under the eye of the subject on the less illuminated side of the face. While the triangle is an important character of this lighting style, it's many different variations of it. Rembrandt lighting is a popular base lighting technique because it gives a flattering shape to faces while adding depth with the shadowed side. So this is a frame that we took from one of the previous examples. This is all in the same music video. And you can see that we have this triangle that simulated this little pocket of light that's just transferred over onto her shadow side of her face. And you don't have to necessarily have this pocket, this triangle over here on the side of your face, but this is like a really good indication of Rembrandt lighting. So how do you do Rembrandt lighting? While there are lots of different variations of this lighting technique, the simplest form of it is simply just placing your light source around 45 degrees to the side of your subject's face and lifting it slightly above their head. When done correctly, the shadows form a small light patch under the eye on the shadow side of the face, forming the shape of a triangle. You can add additional fill lights and modifiers to the shadow side of the face to fill in the shadows to get the desired look that you want. So if you want a less contrasty image like this example right here, you would bring in a fill light to that side of the person's face, or maybe even like a bounce card. If you wanted to intensify that, you would bring in like a negative fill, like what we saw in one of those previous examples with the motivated lighting setup. But these are all different variations, but they're all essentially the exact same type of lighting. You can see that this one right here, it just forms this nice triangle patch on the side of his face, and it does a really great job of just adding some emotion and some shape to his face. So let's hop into it behind the scenes and show you guys some examples of some Rembrandt lighting. So this is from one of those music videos I just showed you. Show you some shots from the actual music video. We have a really nice soft lighting, and we're using Rembrandt lighting for these scenes to give them a nice flattering shape to their face. And we have a couple different examples, a bunch of different examples of this. Let this play through so you guys can see everything. I like this music video a lot. It's a cool vibey music video. All right, so this is how we lit this scene. Like, I'm gonna just pause it so you guys can kind of see what's happening. So off to the right of the frame, we have the neon light for the 720B. And we have that paired with the parabolic 150 softbox, which is huge and massive. The reason why we use this parabolic softbox and this lighting combo for the scene is it lights a huge, it's big. It lights a big space. And we knew that we were gonna have two subjects in the scene, and we wanted them to both get lit evenly. Off to this left side of the frame, we have the neon lights for the 60B2. And this is paired with the projection mount. And this is just aimed to the side of them. And this is giving them a nice kicker to help them pop off the background. And then over here, this small light that we have in the background, using it as the background light, is the Forza 60C. And this is bicolor. It's also full RGB. We wanted like a peachy color on the background. We didn't want it to be like a solid white or a gray. Just give us a little bit of color. And yeah, we put her on the Apple box to match his height. That's like another pro tip. If you have two subjects in a scene, you might want them to be like a similar height. And with this scene, we also had like him rapping into her ear, and it wouldn't have made sense or worked if she was like her actual height in comparison to his. So we put her on a half Apple box just to match that height a little bit better. Shot that on the Canon C70 with a combination of the 100mm and the 50mm Canon lenses. And that's essentially the lighting setup. You see, we have this place just route 45 degrees to her face and lift it slightly above her head to give her that Rembrandt lighting. And we have that kicker light to help pop her off of that background, which looks really, really good. Got a close-up scene right here with filming with the 100mm, exact same lighting setup. It's soft, it's nice. And it's doing a really great job of helping fill in the shapes of her face and their faces in the scene. So I just want to play back through this example again so you can see what's happening right here, how this light is hitting them. See, it looks nice, getting a really nice catch light in her eyes with those lights, really nice reflection off of the lipstick that she has, the gloss. And they're both being lit really well in the scene because the parabolic softbox is so freaking big and nice. Love that softbox. It's one of my favorites. I also have another example that I want to show you guys of some Rembrandt lighting as well. This is from another music video. Play this through so you can see an example of this. You see we getting really nice catch lights in their eyes. This is a really great example right here. You see of the Rembrandt lighting, that nice triangle shape on his face. And the light's nice and soft, super, super soft. So this is behind the scenes for this. We use this nice canvas backdrop that I actually got from B&H. Great canvas backdrop. I love this. It just adds a nice, it adds texture to the scene. We could have shot this on like a black backdrop or something, but he would have just faded into it. I like this canvas one a lot because of the shapes. Lighting wise, we're using the neon light Forza 500B2 as the key light paired with that parabolic softbox. Again, I like that it's big and it's soft. Bigger the light source, the softer the lighting will be. And then as far as the background light right here, we're using the neon light Forza 300B2. This is just the background light. It's not even really in him. hitting him. It's just more so there to light up the background. We have this nice tree to give us some added visual interest. And that's essentially the scene. It's super simple lighting wise, but just placing the light in the correct way and just using this simple lighting basis for the scene just makes it look so good. Let's hop back into our presentation. So why do we use these lights? So for the first example, the Nanlite Forza 720B2 paired with the parabolic softbox, and also the Forza 60B2 is that kicker light. The first reason is the color temperature. Being able to change the CCT values of these two lights in the setup, it allowed us to get some nice contrast using the 60B2 as the kicker light. We set it to a warmer temperature than the 720B2. If you look back at that scene, you can see that the kicker light's warmer, and that's actually helping them pop off and give them some color contrast as well. The second reason is the softness. Using the parabolic 150 softbox allowed us to make the key light super soft. And this is one of the reasons why I love this softbox so much. It's huge, it's massive. You do need a bigger space to use it in, but if you have the space, you want to use it because it's freaking huge and the light source is so soft. Now, the great thing about this lighting setup is it's incredibly easy to do and can be tweaked to whatever mood you're going for. If you want it more moodier, you can add in a negative fill like I showed in that first example on the shadow side. If you want it more airy, you can add in a fill light or bounce to the shadow side. If you want it more stylistic, you can make your key light red using an RGB light. The possibilities are really endless. This is one of the reasons why Rembrandt lighting is great. It's simple to do, it's effective, and you can match it to whatever mood that you're going for your music videos. The next technique is background lighting. And this is going to be removing lights from the scene. Removing lights can be just as creative as adding them. So what is background lighting? Background lighting is another way we can create contrast with lighting, but focusing on light in the background and not our subject. Using silhouettes and moody lighting to highlight our subject's figure is another great way to showcase emotion. When in low light situations, this is a great way to still tell your story without having to stress about everything being perfectly lit. I know we stress about things being perfectly lit all the time, but the key to lighting is to make it believable. And honestly, in the majority of lighting setups, if you were looking at them through your eyes, you wouldn't be able to see everything perfectly lit. So just focusing on lighting in the background or lighting the scene as a whole is a really easy and simple way to think about lighting. So this is an example of the background lighting right here. And this is just more of a stylistic way. And I just want to hop into some behind the scenes and kind of show you what's happening here with this. Where is this at? There we go. Okay, so this is from a music video. You can see it's nice and stylized. It looks cool. We got this light in the background flashing. And then we also have this nice edge light on him, which is creating this really nice long shadow on the ground. I just want to go back so you guys can see that. You see that nice long shadow right there that's casting on the ground? That's coming from that kicker light right there, which is awesome. So this lighting setup is actually really, really simple. So on the background, you can see like this really nice shape. This is coming from the Nanlite Forza 60C, and this is paired with the projection mount. The projection mount is awesome because you can put in these little steel gobos, and the gobos allow you to cast whatever shape that you have in the shape of that gobo onto the wall, and then you can adjust the focus of it. If you want it blurry, you can make it a little bit blurrier. If you want it to be like a sharp shape, you can adjust the focus of the lens with that as well. The projection mount is awesome. So we just dropped in one of those gobo shapes, and we adjusted the focus to make it a little bit blurrier. We really didn't want it super sharp on the wall. And then we also were using one of those built-in effects, the pulse one, to give that lighting setup a little bit more visual interest. It's like pulsing. It's not just sitting there on the wall. And then we brought in this edge kicker light just off a frame to the left. You can see there's light in his face right here. This is the Nanlite Forza 60B2. And we basically just are shining that straight at him off to the edge. And we still want to keep the shadow side of him because we like the shadow silhouette look, but we just didn't really want him to be completely dark. So this edge light is there to just complement him. And we also have that light doing the exact same effect as the background light. And they're just alternating. Sometimes you see a completely dark silhouette. Sometimes you see the edge light coming and it's lighting him, and you see that really nice, cool shadow off the ground. And we shot a couple of different takes of this. We got a handheld take. We got a shot on the tripod as well. And technically, he's super dark in the scene, but it's cool and it's stylized and it looks nice. And this is like an example of that. We have these lights kind of alternating with that same effect. Sometimes you see his figure all the way. Sometimes you see that. Sometimes you just see him with that edge light on him. And then we just filmed a couple different stylized takes of that. So background lighting is actually super simple, but it's very effective. It's very effective. It's one of my favorite ways to light music videos. I like silhouettes a lot. I love silhouettes. So why do we use these lights? The Forza 60C and also the Forza 60B2. Well, the shape is one of the biggest reasons. Like I said, that background with that projection mount using that gobo, we wouldn't have been able to get that shape on that background to make this shot a lot more visually interesting. And the next reason that we use these lights are the built-in lighting effects. Without the pulse effect that we have on both of these lights, it just wouldn't have been as cool of a shot. The great thing about background lighting is it can make a really boring or simple location have character and style. Just focus on lighting the environment and not your subject. And that is going to be a wrap. That is 5 easy and really simple ways that you can shoot your next music video. I want to dive into a Q&A really quick and take some questions that you guys might have. And yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, Chris, thank you, first of all. And yes, we do want to invite you guys to get your questions in. I want to start it off with the crew. What kind of crew do you normally work with? It looks like it's a small crew and you got all hands on deck, everybody doing multiple things. So
Yeah.
behind the scenes, what's it look like?
Honestly, it's obviously dependent on budget, but I try to never go out and shoot a project by myself. Like, it's always going to be beneficial to have at least one person there with me to at least be able to adjust lighting, film behind the scenes, or just give me that additional hand that I need on set. I would say typically it's anywhere from like 2 to like 5 people helping me on sets. But yeah, it's all dependent on budget.
Mm-hmm. And it's actually good to see, because I know, like you said, depending on budget, you get sometimes where somebody doesn't have to know something because you have somebody to do that specific task. You might have like have a lighting person or an audio person come in, and the thing I love about smaller crews is everybody usually has more broad knowledge of everything that's needed to kind of pull everything together, which I think makes you a stronger crew when everybody's kind of involved. And I know what you're doing over there, even though I'm not doing it, I still know what you're doing, so that if I had to step in, or if if it affects what my task is in any way, kind of on the same page. Is that true? Is it kind of how it is when you work with a smaller, tight knit crew?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, like I've had people on sets that have absolutely no technical skill in terms of what they're working with, but just having them there is always a help, because I can't tell you how many music videos I've shot by myself, and I'm setting up a light, and then I have a camera over here on the tripod, and then I'm looking at the scene through the screen, and then I'm like, well, the light needs to go to the right like 2 feet. So then I'm running over, I move it to the 2 feet to the right, and then I go back and look at the screen. I'm like, oh, it's too far that way. I need to come back. Like, so it's this back and forth thing. And you don't technically need people who are specialists at lighting to help you and just say, hey, can you just move this over a foot to the right? Or can you help me unload, or let's stage all the gear this way? So it's like, it's not really a technical thing when it comes to me for helping. Obviously, if you're knowledgeable in these areas, that's incredible. But production assistant or somebody who can just help, just hands-on, and somebody who's down to just do whatever they're asked. Those like the great people that you need on smaller sets.
Now, talking from your experience to somebody who is not as experienced in this, when you go into a shoot, obviously everything's planned out. You have to have, video's different than stills. You have to have a storyboard or some kind of idea. You talked about it, especially in regards to effects. You have to know what effects are going to be done in post so that you can plan for that in pre-production to make the job easier. How much of what you've shot, or how often is it where you go in and you might plan to use available light in a certain way or some other light scheme, and then you have to use lighting? Like, do you go in and is it easier for you to just say, hey, let's work with lighting because I know what I can create. I don't want to rely on anything else. I'm going to develop my vision based on the lighting that we're using? Or do you ever find it where you go in and you're like, okay, we're going to shoot here, end of the day, we're going to get this light coming through the window. And then you have the lighting, the artificial lighting as like, okay, ultimate fail safe. We know how to recreate the look that we were going for, that we storyboarded for with the artificial lighting.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you don't have access to a location and you're kind of just going off of either a description of it or even photos that you've seen online. It's been times where like I booked a location across the United States. I can't physically go there to see it. But I can see the photos and then we get there and it's like, yo, this is like 5 times smaller than I thought it was based on the big, wide photos that they took of the location. So lighting is definitely always a failsafe. Even for shoots where we're running and gunning, where we don't even necessarily know what we're doing, I'm always going to take a tube light with me. I'm always going to take a lighting source with me that I can use with the V-Log battery, just because you don't really know what you're running into. And it's always so valuable to have something on you. If I don't have any light, it's gonna be, if I can only take one light to any music video or like anything that I'm shooting, it's probably gonna be a tube light. I have internal battery. It's gonna run for a long time. I have the bicolored options. I can do RGB, and it's a small profile. So if we're shooting in like a little hut, I can still get some decent lighting with it. So yeah, lighting is always the fail safe. You never really know. You can plan on the sun coming through a window and then it could be cloudy and it's like, oh well, it's super dull in here. We got to figure out some alternative way to light this and make it look cool.
In that first video where with the dude with the basketball, was that, I mean, because looking at it in my head, I'm like, that they had to have, like, that had to have been, we executed exactly how we want. Because I know sometimes you get a great result and you're like, nah, we didn't plan for this, but we like how everything came together. That it's like, I could see it. It's almost like I could envision what you guys were envisioning before you even came up with that idea. Was that completely knocked out of the park on you guys' end as far as exactly what you wanted for the look?
Yeah, I think the look came together. Originally, when I planned it, I was going to be using the Forza 500 B2 instead of the 300 B2, but I just hadn't got it in yet, so I just had to utilize the 300 B2, and we were actually maxed out on that light for the shoot, so it was at full 100%. And it was like just at 100%, it was perfect. And I was like, oh man, I'm so glad that the exposure and the power from the light worked out perfectly for it. But in terms of the way that it was lit, yeah, it was actually exactly how we envisioned it and how we actually planned it. So that was one of those locations where I just had photos. And it's like, okay, we're looking at this picture of this living room. We know we have a big window, so we can just light it that way. And we didn't really necessarily know where he was going to be at in the scenery. We basically just chose that seat in that corner because it made the most amount of sense to keep that window off of frame. We didn't really want it super huge. We just wanted, you just need to see an edge. You know what I mean? You just need to see an edge of a window to know like, okay, well, yeah, this is a window over here. Maybe the light's coming from the window. So yeah, I think everything in that scene definitely came out how we were expecting it to, lighting wise.
Yeah, even like the light, I love how you talked about the accent light coming through the slits in the door, the windows on the
Yeah.
door, where it's like I'm sitting there and I was trying to picture, I'm like, okay, if you didn't know the door's there, you're not expecting it, but it's just one of those little added things. It's almost like I always feel like when I look at something, the most effective lighting schemes are the ones that it's little lights pieced together. It's not like one big lighting, one big source. It's little light here, the little accents, the little details, and it's like, yeah, it probably would have looked great without that light, but it adds another level of depth, like you said, and it kind of just separates the subject from what's going on behind if it were just a dark wall behind there.
Yeah, looking at the lighting originally for it, I thought that it needed some layering to it. Like he was cool and like he was lit well right there, and we also had that practical lamp behind him, but that background was just kind of getting lost in it. It was like, oh, we need something there. But we didn't want it to just be some random light. So yeah, it came from the same side. We had the slits in the doorway. It looked cool. It actually looked really cool. It was kind of just like one of those random moments of magic there.
Hey, we all rely upon it. Now, Vernon had us a question. Vernon, I'm glad you asked this because we're going to get away from lighting for a minute. And I've never shot a music video. I know a lot of the viewers out there have probably never shot a music video. Vernon said, I didn't see any microphones. Where does the sound come in? How do you guys, when you shoot a music video, obviously you're going to be filming somebody either singing, rapping lyrics. Are you guys playing it? Are you guys recording audio? How does the audio aspect work for recording a music video, making sure that everything syncs with the vision?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So on set, uh, we always have to have like a Bluetooth speaker. And I remember when I first started shooting music videos, you used to just play it off the phone, or like if we were shooting by a car, we would shoot like play it off the car's speaker. The reason why we have really loud Bluetooth speakers is because the artist needs to feel the song. You know, they need to get into their performance. They might need bass. They need to hear it loud. And I just started realizing that the phone just wasn't enough. It was quiet, which made them perform quiet. It didn't really make them excited to actually do the performance. So we bring Bluetooth speakers with us that allow to get the artist into the performance of the music video. But when it comes to the audio side of us capturing it, we just use the internal microphones on our cameras. Like, we don't necessarily need that audio to be great. We just need it to be loud enough for us to be able to sync that in post to the actual song from the music video. Now, if we're doing something that has like a narrative piece in it, like maybe even a skit, I've done those for music videos as well. We'll just use like a typical shotgun microphone. It could be a Rode. It could be something a little bit more like expensive, like an NTG4, which is more of like a boom microphone. Those work really well if you have like the XLR setup on your camera. But most of the time, when you don't need to do a skit, the internal microphone on the camera is fine. As long as it's loud enough to be able to hear it and sync it in post, it works pretty much every single time.
And our last question here for you, Chris. A lot of times I'm guessing you're working with, like you saw, we have the one scene, you have male, you have female. We know that lighting is different. You know, if you're going out and you're shooting hip hop, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the rappers are going to want to be seen. It's a different kind of lighting that is going to be flattering to a male or a rapper or somebody that's giving a certain edge. And then you have a softer, more feminine character that's going to respond differently to that lighting. Or even just if you have different facial structures, how do you guys handle that? I mean, do you run into that situation, or is this something that you don't really, it doesn't really make a big deal? If you have people that you have to kind of put in two different lights, so to speak, figuratively and literally,
Yeah.
how do you guys handle that?
Yeah, no, this is typical. When it comes to lighting, like women, for instance, most of the time, if you want to capture them in like a beautiful way, you want to use really soft lighting. And honestly, this is one of the biggest reasons why we use that parabolic softbox, because it's massive and the light fall off is just really nice. We didn't really want that to be like an intense lighting scene. So it depends on what we're trying to capture. If we're trying to capture like beauty, we obviously want it to be soft. We want it to be nice. We want it to be able to just fall on the subjects really nicely. And another thing that I typically use when it comes to lighting women in a nice, beautiful way is like lens filters. Things like Black Pro Mist help take the super sharp edge off of, you know, these digital sensors that we use within our cameras. Also, another thing that tends to work really well with females is like effects in post, like things like digital makeup or digital smoothing to skin is something that I tend to do a lot when it comes to trying to soften up a woman's face in the scene as well. But I think it really all just comes down to what you're trying to capture. The tempo of a song or like the mood of a song could be a lot harsh. So then we might want to shoot heavy contrast and bring in negative feel and have that super contrasty edge to it. But it just really all boils down to what fits the mood and the vibe of the song.
Cool. Chris, thank you so much, man. This was exactly like I had been expecting when you gave me that little preview the other day. I was looking forward to really seeing you put everything out there and put all the pieces together for each of those individual tips. It's like, you know, everyone was a standalone in its own, but then it's like when you start piecing these things together and adding, it gets you excited about doing something like this. And you're an inspiration to watch for still photographers who were like, well, you know, I need 50,000 people and $100,000 budget to do a video production. And it's
Yeah,
like you're out there doing it and making beautiful, beautiful work.
I appreciate it. I really do, man. That's one of the things that I stick to. Like we don't need a lot, and it's a million different ways to get to the same outcome. Just kind of utilize what you have going for you, and practice. It's really what it's all about, man. Practice it, because I came into it just like a lot of beginners are. I don't really have a huge lighting knowledge base, but lighting is what really transforms video projects. I think the cameras and the gear and all of it is cool to talk about, and it's exciting, but if you figure out lighting, man, a lot of that stuff matters a lot less. So
Definitely. And you could tell you have a great eye for color, for lighting, for all that. I mean, when you first threw up the everything, it was the dude with the basketball, and then the heist, the money heist one.
yeah,
Just from a little, like literally when you threw the thumbnail up, is just, it grabs you. You're like, all right, this is great lighting. The color scheme is perfect. And that's a lot of it, man, is really understanding that. So I think, you know, for everybody out there who's really trying to find your own footing and to really connect to people, between understanding light and color, those are two things that'll take your stuff to the next level, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Chris, huge thank you to you again, and as well to Nanlite for making this all happen. So huge thank you to the team behind the scenes at Nanlite. Vernon says, great presentation. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vernon, for tuning in, and to everybody else out there watching, thank you as well. But that's it. Another rendition of the B&H virtual event space is in the books. Catch y'all next time.
Peace.